Welcome to Intrepid Healthcare's live coverage from HIMSS 16. We're so excited to bring you Mac McMillan, CEO of CynergisTek. Mac, tell us what CynergisTek does.
Joe, we provide privacy and security consulting services in the healthcare space.
You've been doing this a long time, Mac, and you've kind of been the godfather, the grandfather of security for HIMSS. You speak not only here at HIMSS, but all the regional conferences. So first, thank you for all you do for HIMSS and for all the health IT people that you've helped educate.
Well, it's my pleasure, and HIMSS is a great organization, and it's part of giving back to the industry that does so much for us.
Mac, as I was walking up here, I saw one of the ads on the floor that says, this year 1 in 3 patient IDs is going to be breached. How are we going to stop this? How are we going to get control?
Well, the way we're going to get control is we're finally going to get serious about security. As an industry, as you know, Joe, we're way behind in what we spend on security overall, and that's costing us. And that's why we're seeing a lot of the things that we're seeing today. The threat has absolutely changed. That we have a lot of information that's very valuable and it's very accessible. And the bad guys know that, and they're going to come get it. And it's up to us to decide that we're going to protect it and make it hard for them to do that. And you just look at the headlines today in terms of the breaches that we've seen recently and the ransomware attacks, et cetera. I mean, this morning when I was woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning by a hospital who had a ransomware attack just yesterday, and had questions about the Lockheed malware, and that's becoming way too common. And I used to get those calls maybe once or twice a month. And I've had, since just being here at HIMSS this week, I've had at least 7 or 8 of those conversations and talked to folks that have had multiple attacks. What's interesting about this is that a lot of them say, we saw an uptick in this kind of activity 3-4 months ago. Right. But one of the things that we still haven't solved in this industry as well is the sharing of threat data. We need to start doing a better job of sharing information with one another. Between institutions, so that everybody can get ahead of this thing, and so we can do a better job.
Mac, I interviewed over 20 CIOs this week, and I asked every single one of them what's keeping them up at night, and asked them for 3 things, and every single one, security was one of the 3. Is there a way? Is if they spend more money, if they do more things, will they be able to sleep at night?
Well, it's not just about spending more money, but that is obviously part of it. It's a combination, as always, of technology, people, and process, right? We need to pay more attention to people. You look at a lot of these attacks, they're started by somebody going to some site that they shouldn't be going to, or downloading something that they shouldn't download, or clicking on some email that has an attachment that has malware embedded in it, and then opening the attachment. We need to educate people better about what to look for and how to be more careful about what they do. I mean, just our phishing exercise that we've had in the booth this week. I mean, it's amazing what people, the number of people who get caught, who get spoofed, and it's just because they don't know what to look for. But once they go through that, and we actually show them, here's what you do: put your cursor here, put your cursor there, check this, check that. All of a sudden, it's kind of like this epiphany, and they go, oh, I can actually see where these things are really coming from. And that will help some, but then there's other things that we have to do. We have to invest in the right technology that can fight the problem of today. The signature-based solutions that we used in the past in terms of antivirus and whatnot, that we're looking for something that was known, that the researchers had identified what the patch was and the signature was for it, and had updated those signatures on those systems. That isn't working. In fact, when you listen to every hospital after hospital right now talking about these attacks, the first thing they say is, it got by all my sensors, it got by all my antivirus, because they're new attacks, or they're 0-day attacks, and they don't have the signature for them, or in some cases they don't have the antivirus deployed across their environment routinely like they should, or don't have the signatures up to date. But it's more than that. We now need to use heuristic-based technology, things that look for anomalous signatures, meaning things I don't know, and start saying, okay, I know you're a bad guy, I'm going to block you. I know you're a good guy, I'm going to let you in. But I don't know you, so I'm going to put you in this sandbox over here, and I'm going to execute you over there. And if you blow up, you're not coming in. But if you're good, then I'll go ahead and let you in. And that's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but that's the kind of detection that we need to have now. And then on the back end of that, even when you detect these things, oftentimes there will be minutes or hours between the event and the detection, and there will be some level of damage that might be done in that interim time period. So you need to have really good processes for responding and recovering those assets so that it doesn't impact your business.
Mac, I suspect if you had two different phones, one for the people to call when they're trying to be proactive, and one for the people that once they have a breach, the one that's ringing off the hook are the people that are calling after they've been breached. And we need my opinion is we need that other phone to be ringing to get that 1 in 3 problem down to 1 in 300. Why aren't people being proactive enough?
You know, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think security is still looked at as a cost center. It's not looked at, it's looked at as something that doesn't drive revenue, and therefore it's optional, so to speak. When in fact it's not optional at all anymore. It's absolutely a critical business process that we need to have in place. And I think what they need to look at it as today is an enabler. Right? It enables you to be able to do business. It enables you to be able to bring in revenue. And when you have a situation like Hollywood Presbyterian or Titus Regional or Hurley up in Flint, Michigan, I bet you if you ask those hospitals, was the breach what really bothered you, or was it the lack of being able to provide services and the impact and the disruption to your care? And I guarantee you it was the disruption and the lack of being able to provide services that was the bigger concern. And I think that's the real issue here. We need to recognize that this is a business issue. It's not a security issue. Interestingly enough, we try to be on the front end of it in our company, and a lot of the folks that we work with are indeed the folks that call that other phone and say, I do want to get ahead of these things. I do want to do a good job. Did I get a lot of calls in the last 3 weeks that are on that other phone? Absolutely, because of what has happened. But what's it going to take to turn it around completely? I don't know. One of the things that I would really like to see is, instead of focusing on the breach, instead of focusing on the fines or compliance or those things, the punitive things, if you will, let's focus on the business issues. Let's have the folks at those hospitals that have had these incidents talk about the true cost of these incidents as it relates to how it affected the business, because in my mind, that's what's most important.
Absolutely. My favorite question to ask any CEO is to brag a little on your team. Can you think of a situation where you were engaged with a customer that your team just did a bang-up job and you really helped an organization, whether they had been breached or you helped them avoid a breach?
Yeah, the good news is that we have a lot more of those, by the way, than we do the other. And what's really exciting is when we help an organization address the weaknesses in their architecture from a security perspective, and they deploy the right technologies and put the processes in place, and they begin to proactively catch these things quicker, to the point that it's only minutes worth of disruption as opposed to hours or days. Every time I get one of those calls from a CIO that says, hey, we had an attack today, but we stopped it right away and it worked, that's those are the ones you like to get. We actually got several of those this week, because at the same time, what I tell people is, for every one of these you hear in the public, there's a dozen behind it that you don't hear about. And the ones you don't hear about are the ones where somebody is doing the right things and has the right controls and processes in place and is able to detect these things rapidly and address them. And it doesn't impact the business so that it doesn't become a public issue.
Well, Mac, you made me feel a lot better. I really appreciate your time today. Thanks for the great work you guys are doing.
Thank you.
All right, and that's closes this episode from Intrepid Healthcare Live from HIMSS 16.